Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the South Endzone live on a Saturday morning. I would pour one out for the LSU Tigers, but I need this coffee too much in my Chewbacca mug, so I'm going to just go ahead and drink it instead of pouring it out. But it was a rough weekend last weekend, Tyler. For those of us in Tiger Nation, let's just talk about you guys because you guys took care of business against Missouri, and you got a big game coming up this weekend with Ole Miss. So let's talk about first, a little bit about what happened last week, what you anticipated, and what happened versus that anticipation.
I feel like this kind of game is kind of exactly what we anticipated. We didn't truly pull away until the end with
Mm.
two field goals to take care of business. It was not once again another game without Brock Bowers. We were
Mm-hmm.
at home, and you and I have talked all season about the tandem of Brady Cook and Luther Burden,
Mm-hmm.
in that Mizzou offense. And they're nothing to, and Theo Weiss too. He had more
Yeah.
receiving yards than Burden. He's a great receiver
Well, if you
too.
try to take Burden away, they do have
Yeah,
other weapons, so
exactly.
it's natural that's
hmm
gonna rear its head. And then Schrader is a good back too. So
hmm it was a hard fought game. I mean, we had to take the field goal early, and they go up. Like they took the lead twice in the game, so we had to make sure that we weren't going to fall away.
mhm.
Still with two of our starting offensive line not playing, still without Brock Bowers. Oscar Delp looked great. All of our receivers look fantastic. Lad McConkey with almost a 100-yard receiving game. And what I was very happy with was Carson Beck's pocket presence this time around. Like on that very first drive, like the pocket collapses, the Red Sea's part, and he just takes off. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's nice to see like him to look. He seems way more active in the pocket. Like he's got his head on a swivel really well. He did
Hmm.
take a sack or two throughout the game, which I mean, Mizzou's defense honestly not too
Yeah.
bad.
No.
Um, but he looked good, and he was actually hitting the deep ball. He was hitting Lad on some deep crossers, and Ra Thomas and Dominic Lovett down the sidelines. He looked
Mm.
really good. I was happy. Shout out Nazir Stackhouse with a big man interception late in the game.
That
Yeah.
was I thought he was going to get it done, but he just didn't have quite the juice.
What does they say? The rumbling, bumbling, stumbling down the
Yes,
sidelines,
that's right.
trying to take it to the crib.
That's,
Um, well, you gotta love a big man with the football. You never know what's
yeah.
gonna happen.
Well, it's kind of the dream, right? I remember when like I was in grade school, and we play football on the playground at recess and
Yeah.
stuff like that, and there'd always be like this one big kid that if you just got him the ball, he could just drag the entire grade down the field into the end zone, and no one would take him down because nobody's charging in and like trying to take his
Yeah.
head off with a
hmm
targeting hit or anything like that. There was no
Yeah.
targeting back then either. But
True.
that's what that reminded me of. Is like if he had just not like spent all of his energy in his legs getting to where he got, I think he probably could have carried those guys the rest of the way. But he
Yeah.
was trying so hard to get there without getting touched that it just didn't happen.
Yeah, dude. Overall, like I was, tough game, 31-21. That's another ranked win. They talk about our lack of ranked wins. We now have two, looking for three tonight.
Mhm.
Dejon Edwards, Kenneth Milton combined for over 100 yards rushing. That's what you'd like to see out of a combined backfield if you're going to run two guys consistently. Beck
Mhm.
looked good. Two tutties, no interceptions. Love no interceptions.
Yeah.
I think we gave them a fumble, or at least we coughed up one fumble. Had two picks. We looked good. I was happy. Had to take a lot of field goals, but luckily our kicker is actually dialed now.
Mhm.
So Woodring looks okay.
Yeah.
Overall, great game down in Athens. Two ranked teams. Mizzou is still good in my opinion. I still think they're the second best
Yeah.
team in the East. I think they're going to go to Tennessee and win today. Let's not get ahead of
Yeah.
ourselves. You have the floor to talk about whatever you'd like to regarding
Yeah.
the last
Well,
weekend in Tuscaloosa.
yeah. So a few takeaways from that game. Number one, our defense is terrible. I hate that because there's a lot of good athletes on that side of the ball. It's just a couple of years of patching things together in the secondary through the transfer portal and not not getting elite transfers, but getting like these, Louisiana Lafayette, Southeastern Louisiana,
Uh-huh.
these directional type school
Yeah.
um, transfers is not the same as going and getting, like a Keon Coleman at Florida State. They go get a stud receiver from Michigan State,
or you
and
grab an
he's one
Alabama
of the best
kid
in the country. Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, or like Alabama getting
Jermaine Burton
from you guys. Yeah,
Yeah.
right, and Eli Ricks from us a couple of years ago. So that there's that stuff, and there's no Joe Burrow in our secondary. So that's one. But the thing that was the most disappointing, as much as I was concerned about the secondary, if you really look at that game, Jalen Milroe had 0 touchdown passes. He threw for 215, 219 yards, something like that. But he wasn't like lighting LSU up with the deep ball like I was afraid, because that's been their calling card, is that Milroe connects those deep shots and really gets things going. And so I thought there would be an opportunity for LSU to take some of their own shots deep. And you saw that early on. Malik Neighbors with the deep ball, and LSU goes up. So we win the toss, we defer. I'm like, oh, okay, so let's see what this defense is going to do. We're going to put our defense on the field first. Okay, shut them down. It wasn't 3 and out, but it was like, I think maybe 6 plays and out for Alabama.
No points on the first
no points. Yeah, stopped them in their own territory. They punt. We get the ball, right around our own 20. We march right down the field and hit the deep ball. Boom, touchdown. We're up 7. Let's go. And you're just like, okay, this team is determined. They're going to get it done. And then it was a couple of touchdowns in a row from Alabama. LSU fails to. I think we went for it on 4th and 1. Didn't get it. I don't know why we threw the ball on that play. Like I would have preferred just like, we're going to go for it on 4th and short. Let's just run it and force them to stop us. But anyway, good play on the ball, not a great throw inside. And anyway, that was, it looked like, oh shit, here we go. And so it's 14-7, and then LSU comes back and ties it. And then Alabama goes up by a touchdown right before the end of the half, but they leave a little bit too much time on the clock. LSU goes right down the field, and you heard him say it. They actually said it. Brad Nessler said it. He did the LSU gets the ball to start the second half, so you can get a back-to-back here. So we get the back-to-back. We did. We go down there. We march down, score a touchdown with like 10 seconds left in the half. Then get the ball, opening kickoff of the second half, march right down the field, punch it down their throat. And I'm like, okay, let's go. Now let's go get a stop defense, and then let's get it done. We never scored again. They scored 3 consecutive possessions, and then we finally stopped them for the last couple of possessions. But they chewed up so much clock, and we had the deflected interception from Daniels. And then the second thing I'll say is that, as talented of a player as he is, Dallas Turner is a dirty bastard. That it's not the first time that he has, had a dirty play on an opposing player, but I don't understand how that play is not targeting. And they went back to the SEC office and got some clarification. And, from what Brian Kelly described, it was basically like a whole bunch of like layers and layers of semantics about how somehow that's still not targeting, and how there's nothing going to be done to Dallas Turner for a direct.
Talk about the game.
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Well, but it's not even about that. Like, I don't know that LSU wins the game anyway.
Yeah.
However, knocking the best quarterback in the country out of the game for the rest of the game with a concussion, with a head-to-head shot, is exactly the purpose for the rule. So why is there a rule? Why is there a rule if that play is not going to be called? And I've seen some really stupid ones called targeting before. So, and I don't want to spend too much time on that, because I don't want to sound like I'm
blaming the refs for the game,
because I'm blaming the refs for it. That's not what this is. This is not me blaming the refs for the game.
It's legitimate.
It's just now, thankfully, he's probable to play. He's going to play tonight, by all accounts. So Daniels, didn't suffer any long-term issues from that, but who knows? Like, concussions are weird like that.
Yeah.
You never know what might actually be lingering that we don't know about. And, so my son has a basketball teammate who got in a wreck this summer and had a concussion, and got cleared. He's okay and everything. Then in practice, hit head to head with somebody. That was like a month and a half ago. He still hasn't practiced because that second hit to the head, he's still having headaches and all that kind of stuff. So
it's like the Tua situation last year. You take multiple shots to the head over and over again, it's going to get worse.
Exactly. So, and what's up, Jeremiah? I gotta let me hang on. Let me pop my homie up here. Our resident Ohio State homer. No, I'm just messing with it. It's I get it. Like they're really good.
Number one team in the country.
But anyway, so that play, I mean, he clearly launches himself.
Yeah.
Clearly hits helmet to helmet, crown of the helmet first, right into the face mask of a defenseless quarterback.
Yeah. And drives him into the turf.
Not only that, drives him up and then down into the turf and finishes the hit hard into the turf.
Yeah.
All they got
That's
was
flags all day in the NFL. Yeah. Even like not even for head to head, but the planting him into the ground is a flag enough in certain games.
So they did call a late hit, a roughing the passer, but that's it, just roughing the passer.
Yeah.
The point is, like, Dallas Turner's going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
He's going to keep hurting people with plays that are designed for player safety that are not legal. And Nick Saban is just, I let me stay away from, I was going to say some really disgusting things about Nick Saban and Greg Sankey and what may or may not go on between the two of them. I will stay away from that. But how's it taste, Greg Sankey? I don't know. Like that's, I don't, because it's, oh my gosh, it's that the sooner they can move the SEC headquarters out of Alabama, the better. Because it is just ridiculous that they have that kind of pull. That
I think it should be Atlanta or just somewhere that isn't like super homery. But
Birmingham is a little much. It's like Alabama's second home. But anyway, so we lost. It is what it is. Our defense is not good, and I thought that maybe they had tightened up enough to remedy.
I did too after the first half.
And it just the worst part to me was the front seven and the tackling. Like there was so much poor tackling and they just ran through us like a knife through hot butter. It was, notice I didn't say a hot knife through butter because the butter might still be frozen or something. Like, no, this was the butter is already hot. That kid, your boy almost made the field goal, just missed it wide left on game day.
I'm not live, I don't have it on.
The kid trying for the he's wearing a Todd Gurley jersey.
Trying to win some money.
Yeah, trying to win some of Pat McAfee's money. Yeah. Jeremiah said Nick Saban is the most egregious thing in college football. I agree, Jeremiah. But anyway, so let's get into this upcoming week because we have a really, and that's what I want to focus on right now. It's been almost a week since the games last week, so let's not dwell on that too much. We got some really big games coming up today and like college football in general, but for sure in the SEC. So let's just go ahead and bring them up. Again, the aforementioned Alabama Crimson Tide, they take on none other than Kentucky. Now, is Riley Leonard going to play? Or no, I'm sorry, that's my bad. That's Duke. Is Devin Leary? Is Devin Leary going to play like Riley Leonard, or is he going to play like Devin Leary? What's that?
Did we just learn the kid's name recently too? Riley Leonard. Now it's in our head.
Can we just? Can they get Riley Leonard instead of Devin Leary because Leary's been terrible? I don't know. He's such a Jekyll and Hyde guy. It would be great to see if he could get some things done, and then if Davis can get going in the running game. They're playing in Lexington. But it's an early start. I just don't see it happening. Alabama has proven themselves to me to be they're going to the SEC championship. It's just a matter of
I didn't want that. No,
I didn't want that either. I don't want you guys to have to put them down and put the rest of the conference out of its misery. God, please don't let them get to the college football playoffs.
Dude, trust me, I know because I feel like that's good. Like I feel like now this is like if there's going to be a chance for two SEC teams in, it's we're going to lose. You know what I mean? Anyway, but you keep going.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, you have one job, get it done. That's all I got to say, Bulldogs. Now, just let's not talk about the fact that you still have some tough games ahead on your
Yeah, I
schedule.
was gonna say not number 9
Just
in Ole Miss.
all I care about is just beat Alabama in the SEC championship. So Vanderbilt, South Carolina, who cares? Tennessee, Missouri. Now this one's interesting. We talked about it a minute ago. I'm kind of with you. I think Missouri gets this done, and I don't think Milton has the chops to be able to keep up with that Missouri offense. And I agree with you that Missouri's defense they're not great, but they're good enough.
Better than most.
Yeah, they're better than a lot. Now Tennessee's defense is really good, so I don't want to discount that, but I think Missouri makes enough plays to get it done. They're playing at home too. It's the 2:30 CBS game. It's the big, like this is it. This is the prime non ESPN SEC matchup for this week. Auburn, Arkansas. I'm still waiting. I want Auburn to keep getting better, because I hold out this hope that the Iron Bowl
is a game.
Could be. Yeah, well, we've talked about it all year.
Yeah,
Hugh Freeze is going to sneak up and grab somebody. He hasn't done it yet. He hasn't done it yet.
So he's saving it. That's our hope that he's saving it.
So he's saving it for the last game of the season for the Iron Bowl. That's my hope anyway. Now this is where it gets real interesting. So you got that Mississippi State Texas A&M game at the bottom of the screen there. That one's interesting from the standpoint of this is the kind of game that Texas A&M loses, and then they give us hell. They give us everything we can.
Regression to the mean.
They are definitely regression to the mean personified. I still think they get it done. Mississippi State just doesn't have enough offensively, but I don't know. We'll see. The two games that are important to the two of us, you guys welcome in Lane Kiffin and the Ole Miss Rebels to Athens, and then we've got the Florida Gators and Billy Napier, who was coaching in Louisiana just a couple of years ago. He comes back home and gets a chance. So this is his first appearance in Tiger Stadium since he took that job 2 years ago. And LSU still has a lot to play for. The question is going to be, can LSU get up off the mat and still go out there and get it done? I think at this point, if they're doing anything, especially that offense, is playing for Jaden Daniels to still win the Heisman. I'm not saying that's the primary goal. Obviously, you're going out there, you're trying to win games, but I think that is still very much in the grasp. If you look, there were some. I think it was The Athletic put together. They did a poll of some of their experts, and 3 out of their 4 experts still had Jaden Daniels listed as their Heisman pick.
Yeah, I mean, so, I would take Daniels or Marvin Harrison Jr. for Heisman over Penix any day of the week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the question is going to be with Harrison, how does he perform in that Michigan game? Because the one question that everybody had about Daniels was, would he do it against Alabama? And he did, until he got knocked out of the game with 13 minutes left. He was lighting their secondary up and running all over them. 163 yards rushing
from a quarterback.
In basically 3/4 of play.
Yeah, that's wild.
That's insane. He was gonna run for 200 yards.
Yeah, most likely. Yeah, 2 bills easy.
So, I don't know. What do you think? How are you feeling about you guys and the Rebels coming into town? Because Ole Miss isn't necessarily playing for that chance to appear in the SEC championship anymore, because they'd need a whole lot of help from Alabama losing multiple games to get there. But they still have a lot to play for.
We're talking 2 good friends on opposite sides of the field of each other, and Lane Kiffin and Kirby Smart, Alabama stablemates. They are descendants of Kiffin was, I think, head coaching before Nick Saban, but they both leave Alabama to take their head coaching jobs at pretty much around the same time. Kirby has talked a lot about always staying. It was great. Pat McAfee interviewed Kirby for 20 minutes yesterday. It was great. Yeah. They talk about the next man up mentality. They're always ready. And Georgia suffered a lot more injuries this year than the years past, and they've been working through a lot of that. Notably, Brock Bowers being referred to as Amarius Mims, lineman, one of our best guys. And I think that the biggest thing is there was a Judkins. He is
Oh,
He's the guy.
Quinshon Judkins
Yes,
is yeah, he's legit.
he is a legit runner, and we
He's
have.
only
I
a
mean,
sophomore too.
yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Like, I'm aware, and it
And
is
look,
gonna.
not for
Go ahead.
nothing, but this is a crazy thing that we haven't really talked about. But like, all right, so with what's going on with Michigan and Harbaugh being suspended, and we'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
We'll get into the rest of college football, but I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of like the SEC and possibly getting 2 teams in. Here's a crazy scenario for you. Ole Miss beats you guys today.
Oh God, don't say that.
Then you go on and win the SEC championship
Okay.
anyway and beat Alabama. You knock Alabama out because now they've got 2 losses to Texas and to you guys.
Uh-huh.
But Ole Miss only has 1 loss, and it's to Alabama in a very close game in Tuscaloosa. Ole Miss could be the second SEC team in the
Oh
playoff.
God, could you imagine?
I'm just
That's
saying,
crazy.
like, if enough different chips
Yeah.
fall, Washington loses
Yeah. Florida State and Washington
to
have to
Utah
lose.
today. Washington loses to Utah today.
Yeah.
Oregon loses to USC somehow. Caleb
Florida
Williams
State has
comes
to
out
lose.
and like redeems himself. Florida State probably gets in because I don't see them not getting in.
Yeah.
Ohio State beats Michigan and buries them, and then they get just kind of like run off the face of the earth. Then you're looking at it, it's like, okay, so who are you taking? Texas or Oklahoma, or are you taking Ole Miss and Georgia and Florida State and Ohio State? I could see it. I could see it happening.
2 teams in the
Very, very
playoff makes
unlikely,
me
but
feel comfortable. But yeah,
I've seen crazier stuff happen
we
before.
have. Oh, we have. Yes,
Listen,
we have.
when LSU went to the national championship in 2007, this is the crazy thing. I've never told this story on here before, but I'll tell you right now. So it's Thanksgiving Day. Okay. My dad and I are cleaning up after we fried turkey and all that stuff. We're kind of putting everything away and all that stuff. And I'm sitting there and I'm talking to him because we're going to the LSU Arkansas game the next day. This is the game that went triple overtime and we lost when they had Darren McFadden, Felix Jones, and Peyton Hillis all in the same backfield for Arkansas. And I think Casey Dick was their quarterback. But anyway, Houston Nutt was their coach, and like Arkansas they were running that like triple option, like crazy wildcat crap with Darren McFadden. McFadden like threw for a touchdown and ran for 2 or 3 or something like that. Felix Jones was going nuts. Peyton Hillis was going nuts. It was tough. But anyway, the night before that game, Thanksgiving Day, at my mom and dad's house, and I said, this is crazy, but because we were number 1 in the rankings at that point, or maybe number 2. So this is going to sound crazy, but we were number 2 because we had 1 loss already. I don't remember who was number 1. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I was like, we could lose tomorrow and still go to the national championship. He's like, shut up, don't say that. I was like, no, check it out. I was like, okay, so USC beats Arizona, Pitt beats West Virginia, and Missouri beats Kansas, and then Oklahoma beats Missouri, and then like everything that I said happened.
Wow, that's like the Pat
Every
White, West
single
Virginia,
game, it was
that's
like
their
all these
team.
different things had to happen, and every single one of them happened. So I'm just
God.
saying, like, if you don't think Texas can get in, or you don't think Oklahoma or Ole Miss can get into the playoff, you haven't gone back and looked at what happened in the last week of 2007 because it was absolutely insane. I remind you, and I remind everyone, that year, 2007, in the first college football, they didn't have playoff rankings, but it was the first BCS rankings. South Florida was number 1. They were 7-0.
Oh.
They were either number 1 or number 2, but they had one of those top 2 spots because that was when they were just doing the top 2.
Yeah.
And they ended up losing like 3 games or something that year. Very similar to when Mississippi State with Dak Prescott was going crazy, and then they ended up losing 3 games before it's all over.
Were they the number 1 team in the country at one point? Like with Dak Prescott?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. If they weren't 1, they were easy top 5.
I'm pretty sure like the first ever college football playoff rankings had like both Mississippi State and Ole Miss in the top 4 or something like that because
I don't remember Ole Miss, but I know Mississippi State was undefeated because they had beaten us. They had beaten us in Tiger Stadium, and Dak Prescott went crazy. And that's when I was talking to, because when you live down here, you run into, like, I'm running into like engineers from all these different schools and everything. And so I'm at lunch at one of the places that I go to in Mississippi, and it's like all Mississippi State grads at
Oh
lunch,
wow.
and they're just like, they're flying high. They're like, 5-0 or whatever, and they got Alabama coming into town, and they're like convinced they're going to win. I'm like, not only are y'all going to lose this weekend, but I would be surprised if y'all don't have 3 losses by the end of this season. And they're like, oh, you are. I was like, listen, man, no offense, and I appreciate y'all because I'm trying to do business with y'all, but I'm just going to tell you the real. Your role in the SEC is to never be good enough to win it, but be just good enough to ruin it for somebody else.
Oh, yep, that is right.
That's the Texas A&M model, the Arkansas model, the Mississippi State model, even the Ole Miss model, to be honest. That's just what they do. And it's kind of, Kentucky's the same way.
Tennessee and Florida.
Missouri has been that way. No, Tennessee and Florida have won national championships. I'm talking about like the ones that
South Carolina and Kentucky are the ones that do it the most in the East.
Yeah, South Carolina is another one. Yeah. South Carolina is another one. But no, so like you look at the rest, and this is again why when I go back to this, everybody looks at like the dominance of the SEC over the last 20 years in college football, and they love to say like, well, it's just Alabama. Like, no. Actually, if you go back, starting in the BCS era, T. Martin and 1998 Tennessee would like to have a word.
Undefeated, right?
Yeah. So the SEC has had Tennessee, Auburn, LSU, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida all win national championships in the last 25 years.
Yeah.
6 different teams from the same conference have won the national championship. And the Big Ten has Ohio State. And that's it.
Don't worry, Jeremiah. We recognize you.
The ACC has 2. They've got Clemson and Florida State. But it's still only 2. Well, no, wait. Actually, they might have Miami, but Miami wasn't in the ACC when they did it. But let's just give them credit for it because they eventually became ACC teams, but they weren't at the time. But yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. If you really look at it, the dominant 2 conferences in college football are the ACC and the SEC. The Big 12 has only had Oklahoma. Yeah. Texas has gone to the game, but they haven't won it. Oh no, I take that back. No, Vince Young. Texas and Oklahoma. All right, so you got they have 2. That's right. I have to go back and I have a whole list of all this stuff.
We made a list just to prove a point. But anyway,
so it could happen. It could happen. I don't think you guys are going to fold and let Tennessee. I let Ole Miss beat you, but they have enough weapons. Jackson Dart's a pretty good quarterback, and Judkins is a really good, talented running back. So
I think it's the same formula like that we had against. They're just like a better Devin Leary and better Ray Davis, right? Like it is. That's like the way I can put it. It is like, oh, hey dogs. Call them dogs, baby. Call them dogs.
Oh, okay. So it plays for you. It's not an underdog thing for you because
call the dogs, baby.
You guys are the dogs. Okay. Go ahead, Bruiser. His name is Bruiser, by the way. So
that's fine with me. I think that you take care of Judkins. Dart did he in big games he hasn't really shown up yet. Obviously he played y'all, but. Which is a big game, but I'm talking about Alabama. Like they looked like a non-factor against Alabama, So it was a lot of self-imposed.
Look, putting up offensive numbers against our defense is no feather in your cap. I'm just gonna say, as much as I would, and it's so sad because we've always been good on defense. Like the last time we were this bad, and we were not even this bad, was when it was the Todd Gurley. Was it Matt Marshall? Who are the guys? Aaron Murray.
Aaron Murray. Keith Marshall, Todd Gurley.
Keith
Aaron
Marshall. That's right. Yeah.
Keith Marshall, Todd Gurley. We else came down and we beat you. Yeah, I remember that. Right?
Yeah, it was like 45-42 or something crazy.
It was a shootout in Athens. In like a
that was the
game.
Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry. And,
Odell Beckham one-handed the kickoff. I remember that. He one-handed the kickoff in the back of our end zone.
In the back of the end zone. Yeah.
I remember that.
But that's the last time our defense was this bad, and it was not as bad as this, not even close, because we are giving up like everything to even teams that can't play on offense.
My interesting thing is, like, if it does have to get into a shootout with Ole Miss because of how their offense works, like, I want to see if we can rise to that occasion. You know what I mean? Like, it's typically been like, okay, we get down a couple and then we stop them for the rest of the game and have to work our way back in. You know, it's like, well, if we're going to go shot for shot the whole game, how is that going to look? You know
Well,
what I mean? So
that was what was disappointing. I really thought that it was going to be interesting if LSU found a way to beat Alabama, and then the rest of the road is very attainable, where you take care of Florida this weekend, you take care of Georgia State easily next weekend, and then you close out the season with a home game against Texas A&M. Take care of business there. I like LSU's chances of going head to head with Georgia and saying, okay, can y'all keep up with us?
Yeah.
You know, because as bad as our defense is, you still got to score, you know?
Oh, I know. So tonight will be that test if it ends up in that kind of form or fashion.
One thing that's interesting, though, we can tap into this a little bit, because I do want to talk a little bit about the LSU Florida matchup, but this is going to be a good window into how things are going to look, and it's just a shame that this isn't the 12-team year, because I actually still think even at 19, LSU wins these last 3 games
and they're back
and maneuvers themselves back up into the top 12. They're a really dangerous team in a 12-team playoff.
Oh, for sure, dude. Like,
you know what I'm saying?
And that team as a bottom seed,
that's what I'm saying.
Undeniable.
Like, okay, we get another crack at somebody. You know, we get to go toe to toe with Ohio State in the second round. All right, I'll take my chance, because the thing that I'm interested in seeing is there still enough time for them to continue to patch things together and get better defensively to where it can actually make a difference? Because really all they needed was they get another stop or 2 against Alabama, and they're winning that game.
Yeah.
But they couldn't get a stop. And it's happened multiple times where they'll go through these stretches where they'll get a stop, and then they'll go like 4 consecutive possessions giving up touchdowns. And you just can't do that. Even if your offense is putting up these gaudy numbers, you still can't put that kind of pressure on the offense to where it's like, hey, you guys, we can't stop anybody, so y'all got to score a touchdown every single possession.
Yeah.
And if we're lucky, we might win by a touchdown or 2. Like, no, that's
field
not
goal late in the
that ain't
game.
it. You know. So but yeah, like watching, and that's going to make it to where I know I made my prediction that Nick Saban's never going to win another national championship, and as long as they get taken care of this year, Saban's going to spend the rest of his career making the playoffs every year. But I really think that if you put it in a scenario where now Saban has to go win 3 big tough games back to back to get to win it all, I don't know, like, because if you go back and look at the history of their schedule, year in, year out, Alabama always has one of the weakest schedules in college football. Outside of their built-in conference stuff. So we play them every year. Even when we play them every year, like, they still, I don't know how they do it, but they get Florida when Florida's having a down year.
Yeah.
They end up, I don't know, somehow they play Vanderbilt like every other year, it seems.
They played us in one of our not so great years.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So like when they get one of the other teams that's, a juggernaut any given year, they either lose to them, like Johnny Manziel and Texas A&M, or they play them when they're not at juggernaut status.
Yeah.
Like Florida, when Florida's like Will Muschamp and they're falling on hard times after the Urban Meyer years, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Did they play him a lot during the Urban Meyer years? No. Well, they did, but Urban Meyer owned Nick Saban. So it's just frustrating. But yeah, this will be watching some of these. I don't know. It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun because the days of having the kind of that walkthrough. Even LSU in 2019, that Oklahoma team with Jalen Hurts was not on par with the other 3 teams that were in that playoff. the fact that Clemson and Ohio State had to play each other and LSU got to beat up on Oklahoma was kind of cool for us because it was like, all right, sweet. We only have to play one of y'all. Let's go.
So thank God.
Like, y'all beat each other. Whichever one of y'all survives, we'll take care of it from there.
Of course, they beat the shit out of each other before going to play you.
Exactly, right? That's how you want it. The worst thing that could have happened was we had to play, Clemson in the first round, and then Ohio State gets to beat up on Oklahoma, and then we got to play Ohio State in the championship.
Yeah.
Jeremiah and Drew would have loved that, but not me. But yeah, so
how you feel about Florida?
That's kind of the So LSU Florida. I don't know what version of Graham Mertz shows up for this game. The 450 yard passing Graham Mertz.
Tebow, we're at number 15.
Very possible. Yeah, very possible against this defense.
He's away from the swamp. Remember that too. It's Graham Mertz away from the swamp.
True. Yeah. And that's the one thing that I'm happy about for this little stretch run here is, we've got Florida and Texas A&M both in Baton Rouge, which we play both of those teams way better here than we do there, which is weird because we actually play Alabama better in Tuscaloosa than we play them in Baton Rouge. I sent you guys that stat. Like LSU's only beaten Alabama 10 times in the history of the series in Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
And they're 8-2 going into Tuscaloosa the next year after they beat Alabama in Baton Rouge. They were 8-1 and now they're 8-2. I was really optimistic that 90% winning percentage was going to hold true, but it didn't. But yeah, I think
Florida is away from the swamp is always better for everybody. Like Florida and the swamp is like some magical, you got Tom Petty singing in the background. It's like a whole thing. But you got him in Tiger Stadium. You got him where you want him in a night game in Tiger Stadium.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Could be a stopping, honestly. I feel like you guys could beat the shit out of them.
We'll see. It's all going to be about how does this team respond to what happened last week, because I think there were still a lot of expectations, and I think that was really disappointing. And so, can they pick themselves up off the mat and go out there and fight again? Florida struggles to stop people defensively, so LSU should be able to put up numbers. And at this point, I got to be honest. Like, I got a couple of bets on Jaden Daniels winning the Heisman. I want LSU to win the rest of their games, but more important than that is I want Jaden Daniels to put up the biggest numbers he can possibly put up, and take that thing down so I can win some money. It would also be cool to see it happen. It's just so disappointing to waste that season on this.
Yeah. It's okay.
If he had this season last year with last year's defense, we'd be like undefeated or maybe have one loss.
He could have beat us.
Yeah, because last year's defense wasn't great, but it was way better than this.
Yeah. I wish Brock was still healthy to contend for a Heisman, but it is what it is.
Yeah. It's
that's not the main goal. Like Stetson went to the Heisman thing for whatever reason. I think it's because Hendon Hooker was hurt, but Brock will be back. Kirby's making me feel pretty good about Brock's status too. So we might get him before the end of the season, but we'll see.
How crazy is it though that a tight end is in the conversation? That's just wild. So it's not just an SEC weekend. This is a huge weekend for college football in general.
It is.
Starting with this game that is starting in about 40 minutes.
Sure is.
Michigan and Penn State. No Jim Harbaugh on the sidelines. They told him at the end of the day on Veterans Day
on the flight to Pennsylvania. I'm pretty sure.
Like what's going on, man? Oh goodness. So it's a 4.5 point spread. I don't know. Like I know that there's that tendency to say like, okay, yeah, this is, this gives Penn State a shot, yada, yada. No, I actually think if anything, Michigan's going to come out pissed off. And I know you're getting ready to go with the fam to watch Penn State in this game, but I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about it, man.
I would like it to be a game just because it's a beautiful day in Pennsylvania. It's in Happy Valley. I'm sure they've been drinking since at least 5 a.m.
Mhm.
Or they just kind of left the bars last night and just kept drinking until now.
Right, right.
Champs closed down at 2, and you just keep going from there. Um, but for the sake of it just being, I hate the Fox Big Noon kickoff so much, Chad. I think it's dumb. This should be a
Mhm.
night game 10 times out of 10, in my opinion. Like, this should have been the whiteout night game in Happy Valley, like,
Yeah.
undeniably. Because the last time that Michigan came to town, it was, like I said, whiteout night game. Mo Bamba's play. Michigan's calling timeouts first play of the game. Like, I mean, obviously, it's still going to be the same. It's still going to be packed to the gill. It's probably sold out for a noon game, but
Yeah.
it's different.
What was the whiteout game this year?
Oh, something
It
dumb. Oh, was it in
what
Minnesota?
Yeah, that's what I
No,
was gonna say. Wasn't it
it was
Minnesota?
something
Like, it was
dumb.
something stupid.
It was
Like,
something
what?
dumb.
You don't need that for that. You need that for this game. Like, what are you doing?
I feel like Franklin started making it games he knew he could win. I feel like it
Yeah.
wasn't, or no, was it Iowa? Was it? I think it was Iowa at night, low key, because it was raining.
Okay, maybe so.
I
I
think
don't know.
it was something. It was something stupid.
So it's still
Like,
dumb. Yeah.
yeah, it's still dumb.
All right,
It was
so Texas
Iowa.
Tech, Kansas, don't really care. I mean, it could be a decent game, but I don't care about it. Tulsa, Tulane, low key Tulane just kind of hanging around at 8-1. The only loss to an Ole Miss team that is, I don't know, right in the thick of things for the playoff. If they could sneak in the
Mhm.
back door, Arizona at Colorado. Can Dion get this team bowl eligible? Still in the cards, but can they actually get it done? They're going to need to sneak up on a team like Arizona and pull
Yeah,
one of these
beat a
off,
ranked team or
because
two.
they're running out of opportunities to
Yeah.
get bowl eligible. Baylor, K-State. So somebody had a thing where they like put Kansas State as like the big game last week on Fox or whatever. So they were comparing that to one of the other games, and somebody was like, "Who wants to watch Kansas State?" It's like, yeah,
Nobody.
you got a point there. Miami, Florida State reviving,
The
the
rivalry.
age-old rivalry,
Yeah, dude.
and it's in Tallahassee, so
Oh,
yeah, I don't see Florida State losing the
I'm sure
rest of
they're
the
playing the
season.
fight song all week long in Miami,
Yeah,
playing the
I don't
shot.
see Florida State losing the rest of the season, so
Me
I
neither,
don't think it happens
unfortunately.
here. But if it could happen, Miami's one of the teams that can do it. Now this one, Utah, Washington.
Do we think after what we thought
It's
against
in
Oregon?
Seattle. It's in Seattle, but I don't like. I don't know, man. Like, somehow Utah is still playing well, and they're playing good enough defense that they could do enough to hang around. And I'm not saying that they necessarily, like, quote unquote, have what it takes to beat Washington. They have what it takes to hang around, and then it gets late, anything can happen.
Well, I mean,
So,
if Washington's offense is not firing, like,
mhm.
or I've gotten without playing offense before, but like, I just don't want to, like, me and my brother were so in on Utah against Oregon, and Oregon just shellacked them.
Yeah,
Like, so, like, Utah has the ability. I feel like Washington is just keeps getting it done one way or another.
yeah, they find a way.
Um, yeah, I mean, they
They should have lost to
went
Arizona
down to
State,
LA and beat USC, so you
right?
know,
Oklahoma State, UCF. I picked UCF to beat Oklahoma a few weeks ago. They damn near pulled it off and lost by 2. But so they're a quality opponent to where they could actually take Oklahoma State out. Oklahoma State riding high off that Bedlam win last week against Oklahoma. They could let down a little bit here, but I doubt it. This one, let's just talk about this
the
one real
Greg
quick.
Chianos,
Rutgers goes
inarticulate
into Iowa
Italian noises.
City, and they are going to be taking on the Hawkeyes.
Mm,
The
come
over-under
on,
is 27.5. What do you think here?
Rutgers, baby. Rutgers is somehow the under. I want 10-7, baby, 10-7. They went to Wrigley last week with Northwestern, and right? Was that last week? No, yeah, they went to Wrigley last week with Northwestern, and it was like still just like I think the Cubs have put up more runs than that
Yeah.
like than that
Yeah.
game.
And this is a good Rutgers defense. So it's like,
Yeah.
I think barring some turnovers, because remember we saw that, I don't remember what week it was, maybe Minnesota,
What Minnesota
or
with the
somebody
turnovers?
where they turned the ball over in the red zone a couple of
Yes.
times. and gave up like really easy scoring opportunities. Both teams did, and they
Mhm.
still came away with field goals or like turnover on downs.
Yeah.
They made it very scary and interesting. And I think they may have had like a punt return for a touchdown too, or
It
something
got
like
called
that.
back.
Yeah. So, that's what it was. He got called back. Yeah. So, I, it's tough. These lines keep getting lower. I mean, we were getting like 34.5
Even
on
30,
Iowa
even
over unders.
31 was like, oh my god! Like when it was when it was 30 even, we're like, oh my gosh, this is so low. Now we're at
Yeah,
27.
27.5 is just crazy.
Some teams can
That's
put that up in a quarter, like or
I was
even a
gonna
half a
say,
football.
like, what are
Teams
you doing?
individually can put out that much at a half a football.
I know, I
Ole
know.
Miss could put that up in like 20 seconds.
LSU's defense could give that up in now that would be a great matchup. LSU Iowa in a bowl game would be great because then it would just be like, all right, it's the unstoppable force against the immovable object and the stoppable force versus the movable object.
Yeah.
Which one's gonna get it done? Yeah, that would be crazy. Stanford, Oregon State, don't care. Ole Miss, Georgia, we already talked about it. West Virginia, Oklahoma. Oklahoma starting to slide.
Is this
Can West
in
Virginia go into
Morgantown?
Norman?
Oh no, it's
Huh?
in Norman. If it was in
Yeah.
Morgantown, I would say we have a little bit of spice. But if it's
Yeah.
in
I don't
Norman,
think
I guess
so.
it is what it is.
Right. Right. Michigan State, Ohio State. No, nobody
No,
cares. Sorry, Jeremiah, but if y'all don't beat Michigan State, we're gonna have words with you guys later.
they just love
Texas
playing teams
TCU.
without a head coach.
Yeah, right. Texas TCU, it is not the same as it was last year. Just a year ago, TCU was battling for a playoff spot,
That's
and this
Duggan and the
year,
boys.
they're hosting the the Texas Longhorns,
Yeah.
hoping that they can still remain bowl eligible. That's where
I mean,
that's where
but it
TCU
is
is right now.
TCU's quarterback willing them to wins, like putting the
Yeah,
entire team on his back to get them
right.
wins. So
Facts, facts. Duke, North Carolina. This was a really intriguing matchup about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and
it's
both of these
basketball
teams
season now, guys.
Yeah, both of these teams have fallen apart as basketball season approaches. It's like I used to tell people that when I had kids, they like I felt like they had found this secret outlet on my body where they could, while I was sleeping, they would go plug into it and they would suck out all my energy and intelligence because my kids kept getting smarter. I kept getting dumber. My kids still had tons of energy and I was just more and more tired every day. I feel like that's the Duke, North Carolina basketball versus football program. Like the closer it gets to November, the more the life gets sucked out of the football programs of these two schools and goes directly into the basketball programs again. So it's like it's just inevitable. Like just give up. Like it doesn't matter how good you are in September and October, Duke and North Carolina fans, you are going to fall apart at the end of the
Well,
season because it's basketball season and nobody cares.
yeah, if Riley Leonard was, he's still out, right? Is he out? I'm
As
assuming.
far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, if he was in, because I mean, I feel like North Carolina's just gonna run away with it. Drake May is still
Hmm.
like they had that was such a weird stub their toe against UVA,
Yeah.
but in their
Yeah,
35-year-old
Drake May is
kicker.
not going to win the Heisman, but he could still be a top 5 NFL draft pick.
Yeah, they're saying he's like the next one off the board after Stroud, after not Stroud, Jesus, after
Williams,
Caleb
yeah.
Williams.
Hmm.
But
Tell
who
you
knows?
what,
I think
whoever,
Jaden Daniels might be after Williams, if we're being honest.
yeah, I'm going to say Jaden Daniels is he's going to make a team in the top 15 really, really happy.
Yep.
And the crazy part is, I think he could slip as far as like into the early second round,
Yeah, but
just because
yeah.
he's going to have all the stuff from the combine with his size and everything else. Like there's going to be all these things where they're gonna talk themselves out of picking Jaden Daniels, and then it's going to look very similar to what we're seeing right now with Bryce Young versus C.J. Stroud,
Yeah.
where it's like, man, how stupid do you feel now, Carolina?
Yeah. Right.
Because
I
Stroud
mean,
is lighting it up, and Houston's just like, thank you very much.
yeah, and I
I'm
mean,
glad we
listen,
didn't have the number 1 pick.
if Daniels falls, that just means they like the team that gets him just gets a discount on a great player.
Exactly,
You know what I
exactly.
mean?
Yeah.
But what do you think about USC Oregon finishing
So
tonight?
USC Oregon, I think there's a decent chance that Caleb Williams. Now the big problem here is that USC has the same problem LSU has. Their defense can't stop anybody to save their lives. So
Yeah.
I think can Caleb Williams keep them in this game? Absolutely. Do I think
Yeah.
their defense costs them this game? Yeah, probably so. But I think this is one where USC could find a way to dig deep and get it done against Oregon. They still have a lot to play for. It wasn't a good look, Caleb Williams going and crying in his mom's arms in plain sight of everybody, and where they're like covering his head up and everything. I think it's an even worse look to keep the camera on that for as long as they did.
Yeah.
Let that kid have his. I mean, we often forget that this is these are like young adults,
18 to 23-year-olds,
18 to 23-year-olds who there's still a lot of emotion, and like you got to think of like the amount of work that he put in for the last couple of years, and he stuck around, and he could still stick around if he wants to. I doubt it. Like especially the way that the draft stuff is starting to.
Yeah, they're pretty much saying that the first pick is hit. Like teams are tanking for him at this point. Is what it's making it sound like.
Right. So, and it's not going to be. I think he's going to end up in a better situation than maybe some of the situations he was looking at, where he's like, I might stick around just to avoid getting drafted, by Arizona or something like that. Like now it looks like Arizona's trying to untank. So, he could still end up in like, wait, what was they saying? Who was it? Chicago gave up. I'm trying to remember what the deal is where somebody's getting somebody's draft pick.
I don't know.
Crap, I can't remember. But anyway, no, Caleb Williams, put in a ton of work, and I think that there was still a lot to be played for. I kind of felt like it was similar to what you saw with Jaden Daniels and LSU at Alabama, where that was your chance, that was your moment, and the defense just couldn't pull their own weight because Caleb Williams did everything he could personally to try to win that game. It's just like, how many points do I have to put up? Like, come on, guys.
Is this game tonight in Eugene or is it in LA?
It's in Eugene, yeah.
Okay. And what's hilarious is like we talked about Iowa Rutgers being the 27.5. This game is like 76.5 for the total, like the complete opposite.
76.5 with
that's not even crazy for this. Like this could
15 points
easily go over.
Yeah,
that's the crazy part. But I think we got some great games ahead of ourselves today, man. They're going to kick off here shortly.
Yep, it's going to be a great day. We got a half an hour before Michigan's Penn State, so I'm going to let you go and hang out with the fam and watch that game. But yeah, what I don't know. What do you think before we go into that? Just your gut reaction. Does Michigan still make the college football playoff under the circumstances?
I mean, they're trying to expedite whatever this situation is for them, like really fast. I feel like, and I feel like if they try to do it anymore, they're gonna be like, help. Michigan's gonna come after them for like lack of due process. It's kind of like because like, Michigan lawmakers themselves are like trying to like
I saw that.
Tell everybody to like slow down, like before you get into like legal trouble of like trying to move this too quickly. I think that like just let them play. I know that like because at the end of the day, like whether you punish, it's hard, right? Because it's all about coaching staff. Like the kids, it's not like the kids were doing something wrong. The kids were doing something illegal. It's all on the staff or the higher ups. So don't punish the kids. Punish the coaches, whatever. If you really feel the need to, you can punish the coaches in whatever way necessary. But I feel like honestly, taking Harbaugh off the sideline just gives Michigan more motivation. But I think it'd be crazy to take Michigan out of the playoffs if they're undefeated. I mean, obviously we don't want them to because Ohio State's going to beat them. But that's my thoughts.
Yeah. So the part that some of this stuff that's kind of crazy to me is like I saw a report that they're investigating whether or not Connor Stallions was on the sideline for Central Michigan. I'm like, I don't understand how y'all still haven't figured that out yet.
Yeah,
like to me, that should have been figured out within a couple of days of when
videos of him standing next to the play callers.
There's video and pictures of somebody who looks a lot like him standing right there. We know which games he went to and everything, and it would be really simple for Central Michigan to just be like, no, that's Coach Bill Johnson.
Yeah. If it was somebody that's
if it's not him,
who
is it?
I mean, Central Michigan should be like, yeah, that's our strength and conditioning
That's
coach or whatever.
little Greg.
Yeah,
That's little Greg. That's Timmy's brother or something. You know,
yeah.
like no, nobody knows who this guy is except that he looks exactly like Connor Stallions, and it's one of the games that they're scouting. You know, like it's wild.
Yeah,
but
in fact, you need to
anyway,
advance scout Central Michigan is a whole different story. But
I think based on what I've witnessed in my time as a college sports fan, the NCAA will ultimately do nothing besides what they've already done to well, the NCAA hasn't done anything. This was the Big
Big
Ten,
Ten that's doing it. Like they're
the
good.
Big
The Big
Ten,
Ten is cowboying this thing all by themselves.
right. The Big Ten is suspending Jim Harbaugh, and so that he will not coach this weekend, but he will probably come back and coach before the regular season's over with. And yeah, maybe they could steal the opposing lawyers' arguments. That's great, Jeremiah. Oh shoot, that's good. If Washington loses and Oregon wins out, you don't think they get in over second SEC team? Oh yeah, definitely. If Oregon wins out, and their only loss is that nail biter in Seattle, then yeah, I think
I think Oregon deserves it more than Washington, even with the loss to Washington. But that's just me.
Yeah,
but
I just see there being a possibility that they don't win out. That's all I'm saying. So, but yeah, it's going to be Ohio State or Michigan, and then Florida State, and then it's going to be an SEC team and a Pac-12 team. That's what I anticipate is the way the playoffs going to break down. But you could potentially have. I think it's going to be really tough for there to be two Big Ten teams, just because. You got all right. So Michigan's got to beat Penn State today. Then they have to beat Ohio State, and if they do, I don't think Ohio State gets in over some of the other schools that we're talking about.
Yeah.
I think you only get one Big Ten team in, but it's possible you could if it's a real close game between Ohio State and Michigan, and with all the controversy and everything else, you know, it could work out that way. But I think you'd still need the same kind of help that a second SEC team would need to get in there. So yeah, don't lose to Alabama in the SEC championship.
You know what? I'm just worried about tonight. We got number 9 Ole Miss down between the hedges. We got to take care of business, and then we got to go to Neyland next week. So I got to take it 1 week at a time. When we go play Bobby, we go play the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech down on Bobby Dodd in 2 weeks and some change.
Yeah.
We could talk about it Atlanta, but until then.
Right. So anyway, but yeah, I think that's what we end up with is Washington or Oregon, Ohio State or Michigan, and then Florida State, and then either Georgia or Alabama is our college football.
I swear to God, if we somehow stub our total at Alabama in the playoff, I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, I don't know.
Be really upset.
Yes, right. That's a fact. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and we will catch you again next time. Enjoy the college football today. South Endzone. I am Chad. He is Tyler. We are out. Peace, y'all.